A wonderful day to you again, and welcome to the third part of our rejoinder on this issue of the propriety of fitness of the emergence of the new Olu of Warri, which has been made an issue by a gentleman from Edo State who claims that there is a controversy where indeed there is no controversy whatsoever. In the next few minutes, I will demonstrate to us why it is that there is no controversy whatsoever. Now, in my last tip, I did make it clear that the word that is used in this declaration that we are calling edict for the purpose of argument is Edo origin. Therefore, to make it simple, for a candidate to qualify to be nominated, that candidate must be fathered by an Ishekiri, and the mother must either be of Ishekiri or Edo origin. Now, I've made it clear to us that the books tell us that Edo is the father of Yoruba, while other books, depending on the one you want to rely on, tell us that Yoruba is the father of Edo. And since it is not our job to resolve which of the books is the one that is the proper one to rely on, we naturally have to resort. Let us bear in mind that this declaration that is being touted, that has been brandished around by these gentlemen, when it was done, most of them, including myself, were children. And so for us to appreciate the word Edo origin and then claim to interpret it to the extent of removing Yoruba from the composition, it beats my imagination. Why do I say it beats my imagination? This is because when instruments or documents are drafted, even lawyers, judges, and scholars who were not part of the drafting process sometimes have issues with interpreting those documents, and they make recourse to certain tools, one of which is a tool that seeks to know the intention of the drafters of that document. If we were to apply this to this situation, it will mean that we go back a little bit to our oral tradition. And in doing that, I encourage you to come with me. The tribe today known as Ishekiri was given birth to several hundreds of years ago. The crown arrived from Benin in 1480 AD. And when Prince Ginoa I came with the children of 70 chiefs from Benin to establish Warri Kingdom, they met the core groups, the core 5 communities that make up Ishekiri, namely Irigbo, Okotomu, Omadino, Ugborodo, and one other one which I cannot recall. But the point is, these 5 communities are migrants from Yoruba. They are aboriginally Yoruba people. And so, there is no Ishekiri man or woman that will argue with the position that one of the integral components of Ishekiri is Yoruba, Indeed, if you Google Ishekiri on the internet, one of the places it will take you to is the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia describes the Ishekiri language as Yoruboid, an adjective coined from Yoruba. The declaration you are talking about mentions Omoba. Omoba is a Yoruba word. It's not an Ishekiri word. If you were to speak Ishekiri, you would say Oma Oba. What is there contained in the declaration is Omoba. Now, again, you must appreciate the fact that when we are talking about discrimination, we are not talking about discrimination against any tribe at all. We are talking about discrimination against the Aboriginal tribes. In other words, any instrument that is done to take the birthright of one of the children or one of the brothers of Ishekiri away is an infringement on the fundamental rights of that tribe. So we can say, for the purpose of discussion, that Ishekiri has two brothers, namely Bini and Yoruba. In terms of inheritance, which of course naturally will include the throne, you are saying that you want to interpret this declaration and remove Yoruba from it and retain just Benin. And the point we are making is that that constitutes an infringement of the fundamental rights of the Aboriginal group, as well as a contravention of the Convention of United Nations that Aboriginal groups have a right to preserve their identity. To that extent, it could not have been the intention of the drafters to dissipate the Aboriginal component of a tribe. For what reason would that be? And that's why I feel that care was taken not to choose the word Bini, but to choose Edo origin. Edo origin. You see, most of us have not taken time to look at this document. And then some of you will ask, wasn't it the same document that was used to disqualify this candidate 5 years ago? The very simple answer is that if you have done something wrong 5 years ago and you now have better understanding of it, do you still need to continue doing that thing wrong? The answer is no. And some of us have asked, don't you think if you went to court, it will be statute barred because it is more than 5 years? The answer is still no. Under the Fundamental Rights Enforcement Procedure rules, there is no time limit. There's no statute bar for bringing a fundamental rights action, because the rule expressly provides that an action should not be dismissed solely on the ground that it was brought outside a particular limit of time. And so I will encourage that young man. Unfortunately, I don't know his name. I don't have his particulars. I only saw the video. I will encourage that young man to read this declaration, which he brandishes as edict, properly. I can assure you that there's absolutely no controversy. Everything has been done consistently with the declaration. It's just that some of us elect to interpret the declaration, that portion of it that has to do with Edo origin, and read into it Bini origin. You may want to ask what happened next. Now, because Chief Ayiri Emami ascribed to himself powers which he doesn't even have under the document, he now deliberately delayed the process One of the things he did in the course of this was when an inquiry was done, a letter of inquiry was sent by the Ginwa ruling house to him. He shredded the letter and sent it back to the sender. And that issue was reported to the Council of Chiefs. We are a lawful people. We are not a lawless people. We are not a disrespectful people. The Council of Chiefs does have a code of conduct, pursuant to which another committee was set up to entertain that petition. And also contained in that petition was an allegation that Chief Ayiri Emami attired himself in a way in which the inscription was done, "I am the king." Well, I do not know if that is true or not, but that is an allegation, as a result of which a committee has been set up. As a matter of fact, Chief Ayiri Emami is expected to appear before the committee on the 27th day of March 2021. And you will agree with me that in this circumstance, he, being the person who has been accused, will naturally have to step aside so that the next in command can assume his position. And that is exactly what has happened. The gentleman should even answer the question, knowing that the Warri Kingdom monarchy is a replica of the Benin Kingdom monarchy to the extent, substantial extent. Who would he say is the highest ranking chief? Is it the Ologbo or the Iyashere? I leave it to him to answer. However, let me say this before time runs out. And that is that we must bear in mind that what that declaration was supposed to do was simply to codify our oral tradition. It was not meant as a tool to destroy our oral tradition. And in my view, it's a destruction of the tradition for you to, by way of surgery, remove Yoruba, which is an integral part. My name, for instance, is Ariyo. Ariyo means the same thing in Yoruba as it does mean in Ishakiri. So, I think we should be properly informed before we take to the social media to claim what we are not. The gentleman is not even on the ground here to know the happenings. There is nowhere in the world where a subordinate will adorn the cloak of his superior and he will not be questioned. He's alleged to have done that. Photographs are there. I am not saying he has done that, but he will be given an opportunity of fair hearing. But in that process, he cannot be a judge in his own cause. And therefore, we necessarily have to step aside. You may want to ask, does the Council of Chiefs have the right to suspend a fellow chief? Of course, this same chief superintended the code of conduct in issue. Every society, every group of humans must have rules and regulations that govern them. I will proceed on a break and come back for another part. Thank you for listening.